quick walking break. So we've just gone around the castle in Edinburgh, and we're going to go for another walk later. But there were loads of different stories, loads of history, loads of things to speak about, loads of stories, loads of experiences of people in the castle, around the castle, the military that were in the castle, different people that had lived experiences. And a lot of the people that shared their stories, that had stories within the castle, whether it's the military, the people previously or more recently, then you've got the story about Mary. If you didn't know, she basically picked the smallest, most secluded room in the castle to have a child, which was an odd choice. But when you hear all the context around it, then you're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes more sense. And there were so many other stories that were similar, without the context, without the nuance, without the feeling the experiences of the person. It's like, oh, so what? It's just another thing that happened to another person. But when you hear the stories in their entirety, as at least they're told, it makes you feel something as a person. The more I think about the stories that I heard today, the more I think about the stories that I see, there we go, the more I think about the stories I see online, and the content is sort of like, online content is so superficial. It's so, here's the biggest thing, here's the record, here's the whatever. Whereas a lot of the stories I'm hearing while I'm away in Edinburgh is, hey, here's a person that had a struggle, and this is how they got through that. And a lot of it is celebrating the mundane, celebrating the everyday lives of the everyday people. Like, this is how they used to live, this is the situation they used to work in, or this is the real problems that they had to live with day to day. It's the day-to-day struggles, the day-to-day living experiences, the day-to-day behaviors of everyday people, which, as I'm talking about it, is basically what a vlog is. It's vlogging your everyday experiences, everyday struggles, if you talk about your struggles, of course. Yeah, one of the stories in the War Museum, it was the War Museum inside of the castle, it's the military war, and one of the stories that's being shared in there was actually stored in a suitcase for years, because that's where all the photos were, that's where the books were, all the diaries, and there's loads of other stories from World War I and II, and other people that had similar related stories. Like not the individual person's story, but the story about it being hidden in whatever suitcase, box, loft, thing. It's sort of hidden away. They're everyday stories, they're journals. The journals, the story, the daily things, that's what's interesting, that's what's exciting, and those stories have, or were, hidden for years. That's the mountain we climbed up yesterday, isn't it? Yeah. But that's what I think what makes vlogs, what makes online content really interesting. It's not the 3-act structure of setup, conflict resolution, or hey, this is the amazing thing I did, or all the editing. It's the actual story. It's what happened to a person. It's the experience of the person and relating to that experience. It sounds so stupid to say, but it's really obvious. Like, if the experience of the person isn't shared very well, then the story isn't received very well. So a good story is someone that can share their experience to help other individuals experience the same thing they did. And of course, in an ideal world, that experience is somewhat interesting or relatable. But that's the thing about these vlogs. Like, how do you make a story that's me living the world? How do I make a story relatable or exciting? Well, you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to be vulnerable enough to share how you're feeling, what it is that you're feeling, and just talk openly, which is a challenge. It's a skill. It's one of those skills that I mentioned in the Casey vlog that I need to develop. Can I be vulnerable enough, quick enough to tell a story well enough for you, whoever it is watching? Maybe it's myself. Hello. Watching myself back, will I feel the same feelings, the similar feelings at least, of the experiences that I had when talking about this? I don't know. I guess you wouldn't even call that half finished, would you? Sort of like a tenth finished? Reminds me of projects where you sort of get started, you think, yes, let's go, and then you just don't carry on.